Special shout out to today's episode to SeatGeek. We recently partnered with them to become a brand ambassador. What does that mean? Well, for you, it means you get a special discount when you make your first ticket purchase with SeatGeek. With my code InjuredListPod, you will get $20 off your first purchase with SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a ticket purchasing app that takes all the confusion out of buying tickets to your favorite sports, concert events, and more. They score each ticket on a scale of 1 to 10 to help you know if you're getting a good deal. Green is good, red is bad. My followers get $20 off their first ticket purchase using my code InjuredListPod. Click on the link in the show notes and browse for your favorite events. Your next big night ever is waiting, and they have the tickets.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of the Injured List podcast, Brian Scott.
All right. Welcome back to the Injured List podcast. And like I promised, my special guest for this episode, Mr. Travis Reed. Without further ado, let's bring him up to the stage. There he is, Travis. I'm excited to have you on the podcast. I got to be honest, I have not had a basketball person on as of yet. You are the first, my friend. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
And not many people know this. I don't share a lot of personal stories, but I did play ball back in the day. Almost played in college, at a small Division III school in Vermont. Didn't happen. I blew my knee out before I ever even had the opportunity. But I think I could have done it. I'm 5'7". At the time, I weighed about $160, but I could jump. Believe it or not, I had some hops, and I could shoot the jumper. So
Okay.
I don't think I could have competed against you. I mean, you were like 6'8", 229 in your playing days.
Yeah.
You racked up quite a list of accomplishments in your overseas journey. In a time when a lot of guys were trying to come over here to play and be successful, you were actually going over there and became very successful. So congratulations on all your accomplishments. I mean, there's a lot to list. You were, I don't even know a lot of these leagues, but you made your way around, and you were good everywhere you went. You were the league MVP in Holland, finals MVP, league MVP in Estonia, Baltic League MVP. You were a multi-time All-Star and a runner-up MVP in Australia. Did I get all those?
Yes.
Take me through your journey, because we talked before this interview and you were telling me your first stop, which I was shocked to hear, was actually in South America, correct?
Yes. Pretty much what happened was I got drafted like number 59 or something. I forgot, back when I graduated from college from Long Beach State.
Did you play all 4 years at Long Beach, or were you at UCLA as well?
I started at UCLA. I went there with the number one recruiting class in the country: Baron Davis, Earl Watson, Billy Knight, and a guy by the name of Shea Cotton. We went to UCLA, and then the next year they brought in the number one recruiting class with Matt Barnes, Jerron Rush, Ray Young, Dan Gadzierek, Jerome Wiesio. So my sophomore year, we had basically 9 professionals that was on that team. 5 NBA guys, well, if you want to count Ray Young, 6, and then 3 overseas guys, including myself. So Baron Davis and Earl Watson obviously both played 10, 12 years. Baron Davis being the 2-time NBA All-Star. Matt Barnes, obviously, everybody knows him from Up in Smoke, but I've been on him since he was about 18, going as a fresh fish at UCLA from Sacramento. Not even including Jerome and Dan. They the one that kind of talked to me about overseas basketball, because Dan was in Holland. He's from Holland. And Jerome was from France. So I kind of learned about a little bit how basketball was with them. I stayed there 2 years, left, went to Long Beach State, graduated from Long Beach State. Like I said, was Big West all first team 2 years. Yeah, even though 1 year I thought I should have got player of the year, but that's a whole nother story.
We won't get into that.
Yeah. But yeah, so after that, there was a choice to be made between like NBA Summer League and going overseas. And what happened was I had an apartment at the time and needed to pay rent. And an agent who knew my teammate, who was an agent of my teammate, said, "Look, I can get you to Bogota, Colombia for like $5,000 a month." And I said, "Sold." So that way I knew, I was like, well, I could pay my rent for a couple months straight. Okay, good. At the time. So pretty much I graduated in May from Long Beach State. And then like in June, I was over in Bogota, Colombia, playing professional basketball in South America, which was, look, if I'd have saw the Cocaine Cowboys, I probably wouldn't have went. My mom wouldn't have let me go.
I was gonna say, man, we talked about this also before. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wouldn't have went.
We might have to have a whole nother episode about your experiences down there, just to touch on all that.
Oh yeah. Trust me. Yeah, there's some stuff, it's just to say the least. Well, I'll give you a smidge of it. Pretty much I had 2 armed guards with me at all times because they, quote unquote, kidnap people.
Yeah.
So whenever I went anywhere in the city where I walked around, I had 2 armed policemen with me. And like there was no cops, the military were the cops. So they had like the big, that was the first time I ever seen like the big M16 and the AK Baryshnikov, whatever, AK-47. And I was just like, man, they just walk around with that, to protect me.
That's an eye-opening experience as a teenager in South America.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like, wow. But yeah, like I said, it was a great experience. I had fun. I learned a lot from the back, like from the business side as well.
Imagine you grow up pretty fast too. Yeah, you probably had to mature a little bit quicker than you would have if you stayed home.
No, definitely grew up really fast. I actually signed my next contract to go to Poland while I was over there in Colombia. And so, I was like, well, they wanted me to play the whole season. My agent said, just leave. You got to get back home. So in the middle of the night, I took a taxi. I took a taxi to the airport, bought a ticket to Miami, and then Miami to back to California.
You might not have made it out otherwise.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I was nervous. I was like, man, because I was telling her, look, my grandma's sick. My mama's sick. My family, I got like, okay, like you ain't going nowhere. I was like, uh-oh.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
So you made it out of there. You got all your fingers and all your toes still attached. So that's good for a basketball player. That's very important.
No, yes, definitely.
And then made your way over to Europe, played 10 years total, which is quite remarkable in a time when, like I said, a lot of guys were trying to get over here to play. You were over there being very successful. Tell me a little bit about some of your other experiences over in Europe when you were out there.
Well, definitely had a great time. I actually played 11 years, but one of the years I was injured the whole year. We'll get into that. Yeah, we'll get into that. So, but my experience, I learned a ton my first year about the business, about getting released, about the money situation, everything. Like I said, I went to let's go back to Poland. I went to Poland and I was there for almost a month, and they released me because I wasn't 6'10", like they wanted. Literally, that was the reason. It wasn't because I didn't play well, nothing. They just released me because I wasn't 6'10". They wanted a 6'10" guy.
Crazy.
Yeah, didn't pay, they sent me a ticket home. I'm on the plane with the other American going home. And I get an emergency call, Travis Reed, come to the front. And so it's my agent saying, get off the plane. I have another job for you in France. And I'm like, wow. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like sleep almost on the plane, getting ready to go home. I get off the plane. I bring my bag to the next place. They say it's too heavy. I don't have any money. I have to leave my bag there in the airport. And so they, he just said, just go and we'll get it when you're in France. I go to France with basically just my backpack, my tennis shoes, and the clothes on my back, and a PlayStation. And that's it.
Gotta have that.
You gotta have the PlayStation. And I left everything, all like my pictures, clothes, all that stuff in Poland, thinking that they was gonna just send it to France once I get to France. So the team from France, I'm there practicing. I'm hand washing my clothes every day. Yeah. This is the craziest year ever. I'm hand washing my clothes. My agent says they're going to give you a automatic car. They give me a stick. I don't know how to drive a stick. So my car is sitting in a parking lot for like 2 weeks because I didn't know how to drive a stick. It was a crazy situation. I was there on a tryout going against another American who was there on a tryout. Yeah, and just the crazy situation. The coach gets fired, so the other coach wants to bring in 2 new Americans. I go to I'm my agent is French, so he's like, I'll be there in 2 days. So just
he sounds like the French Jerry Maguire almost.
Right? Yes, exactly. I'll be there in 2 days. So he wired me like 1,000 euros. So stay in a hotel for 2 days. I'll be there. So they dropped me off in Paris. So I was there instead of 2 days, I was there 8 days. I ate McDonald's every day, which sucked.
Yeah. It's not the same over there. That's for sure.
Yeah, no. They have a different kind of McDonald's. That's a whole nother story. But so I'm there, and like I said, 8 days later he comes. We go to Belgium, and the coach cuts me because he thinks I'm not good enough. I was like, man, forget this, forget basketball.
I'm surprised you made it that far, man.
Right?
I'm like, holy cow. I would have been like, is this the way this is gonna go? Like, I might as well just fold it up right now and go home. Like,
exactly.
I'm surprised you made it even.
Only reason I made it was my dad basically was like, son, it's okay. I mean, I've been through worse. I was in the military. I'm like, Dad, I was in another country, Dad. They don't even speak English. I was just frustrated. By the way, I never got my bag.
I was gonna say, I'm sure that thing's probably still sitting there.
Yeah, they threw it away in 2002 or whatever it was, but I never got my bag, so I just had to close on my bag for all that time. My agent came, brought me some clothes, whatever. So like I said, we went to Belgium, and then after I get released in Belgium, I fired my agent. I'm like, I'm through with you. Forget this, man. And so another agent that knew me, he said, "Oh, you're in Belgium? There's a team that's offering $1,500 a month. Is not that much money, but you'll try out." So I was like, what do I have to lose now? I started out making $5,000. I signed a contract in Poland for $10,000, and then it was $6,000 in France and $4,000 in Belgium. And the money's kept going down. And I was at the bottom of the barrel in Holland.
Oh no!
And so the first game, I practiced for a couple of days. The first game we played the eventual champions of the league that year. And we get blown out by 30. I was like, I shot the ball every time. I didn't care. I was like, I'm gonna shoot it. So I ended up with a lot of points, but I was terrible, like shooting from the field. Maybe 30 points off 25 shots. And pretty much after that, the coach was like, "Oh, Travis," I said, "Coach, thank you for the opportunity, whatever," because I'm thinking he's gonna send me home. And he was like, "No, we're gonna keep you." I was like, "Really?" Well, oh, okay. Like shocked. I was shocked that they kept me. And that's how my career started.
That's awesome. But it's always like, it always takes like, I feel like everybody has that break where it's somebody that sees something in them that maybe they didn't see themselves, right? Like you were like listen to you talking about it, like you're like, I shot terrible. Like, you had all this other stuff going on. God only knows what you were thinking. Your mind's probably racing 1,000 miles an hour. You just started chucking up shots, but they saw something in you and gave you a chance. Sometimes that's the way things kind of
That's
roll.
how.
You know?
That's exactly how it goes. And like that was the start of my career. I will never forget that first year because I went 5 countries in like 2.5 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that was just like I said. I learned about the money. Teams will hold the money from players.
Oh yeah.
Players getting released. Obviously, that being me. Players getting released for absolutely no reason. And I'm just, I'm obviously paraphrasing and some other things, but
Right.
oh my God, yeah, that first year is an unforgettable year. Will always be embedded in my mind.
It's awesome. So it sounds like that's probably the big difference between the Euro game and the international game versus the NBA. Like nothing's guaranteed, man. Like everything's kind of just fly by the seat of your pants. Hope to get the check, hope to get a contract. Maybe your agent's working for you. Who knows?
Well, I can tell you this, and if you play long enough in overseas, every single player has went through it where you either been released or you haven't gotten your money, and you can sign a contract for 100,000, 200,000, and they can be like, or 20,000 a month. I just go by months, or like 20,000 a month, and then 1 month they say, look, you'll get it, just keep playing. I'm like, wait a minute. I've been playing this whole time. You've been paying me this whole time. What do you mean you don't have it? And then sometimes they'd be like, we don't got it. You just got to play through, and now you can sue for the money. But the problem is they'll wait you out because they know you want to go home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So European basketball probably, this is just me, all right? I think is the worst contract because it's year to year, right? Now you can sign a 2-year deal. But it's going to be a jump in money, but not maybe like a 4 to 10. It's going to be like a 4 to 6. And then don't get me wrong, it's still good money, but like, and they can sometimes team just release you, because they don't like you. Say the coach, look, I was on a team, my second year in Holland, I was with a coach. He released 25 Americans in 1 year. 25.
That's crazy to think of that because I'm thinking they would want those guys over there. The talent tends to be probably a little better. You'd think maybe it would help their guys get better, maybe add a little bit of something to the game for the fans, draw some more crowds and pay. I don't know. Maybe I guess I'm thinking backwards.
Hey, this coach, even though the funny thing is we won the championship that same year with basically 6 players because everybody had cut or quit that year, so it was a situation where, like you could have a contract. Like I said, one of my first year, I thought I had signed contracts, and come to find out they were tryouts. And even in the NFL, you get your bonus money, your signing bonus money. Like over there, you could be over there for a month and a half, 2 months, don't get no money. You're just hoping and praying that they finally give you your money, And if they do, they'll give you the last month's check, and they'll still owe you a check. You just, European basketball, it's not what people think at times, but it can be very fun if you go into the right organization.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's why all those European players are trying so hard to get over to the NBA.
Well, they know the $1 million is whatever it is guaranteed, and you're going to get it even though it's taxed.
Even if you're sitting on the bench making the league minimum, it's still probably better than being over there hoping to get a check from month to month.
Well, like I said, some teams have the money and they just pay you. Yeah. And what the European teams do, if with like young players, they sign them to these ridiculously long contracts. So when they do get drafted in the NBA, the NBA has to wait 4 or 5 years to get them over because they're under this 6-year deal with, a team. Like example, Manu Ginobili got drafted by San Antonio like in 2000 I think, or 2001. He did come over to like 2004 because he was under contract for the next 4 years. Same with Tony Kukoc and other people.
Yeah, a lot of those guys played for several years in Europe before ever getting their chance.
Yeah, before they would get drafted.
Yeah,
and then like just they would have to play out their contract because the team wouldn't let them.
Has that started to change, you think, from what you've seen with these international guys? Like when you look at a guy like Luka Doncic and stuff, they seem to be coming over younger now.
Yeah, well, Luka I think he's a special case just because he played so young. He was professional at like 15, 16.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I personally saw the first young person start in Spain, which was Ricky Rubio.
Yeah.
He was starting in Spain at like 16, 17 years old.
Yeah, he was young. Yeah.
Yeah. And so because he played with my ex-teammate, Jerome Mauricio. And I saw him and Rudy Fernandez both right before they went to the NBA. They were both like 16, 17 years old playing in Spain. And same with Luka. He had been playing professional so early that he can go to the NBA at 19, 20 or whatever he was, just because he had been playing professional since he was like 14.
Yeah, they had the pedigree and the resume to back it up too. So
yeah. So a lot of those guys, they be playing like second division. Like when Dirk got drafted in 98, he was playing in second division Germany. He wasn't even in first. And Dallas just took a chance,
Yeah, they did.
Yeah. So
stuff.
no, so that's kind of what it is for the most part. Like some of them, like they want to get out, of the situation that they're in, like Giannis Antetokounmpo and his brothers.
Yeah.
But like a lot of them, they're coming over now a little bit more younger and younger because they want to play in the NBA. It's just it's just so much money. And don't get me wrong, European, they get paid a lot of money too.
Yeah.
But it's 50, now it's like $50 million a year if you're an all NBA player, so
that's crazy money.
Yeah.
So while you were over there, did you have a lot of interest still from any NBA teams? Did you ever get calls about coming back home and playing?
Yeah, I did. I actually played in the summer league, not for NBA. I played in the free agent summer league back in 2004. I played with Baron Davis. I was going to try to play with the Clippers.
Yeah.
But Baron was like, just play with me, man. You get to see, you play with me. NBA eyes are on you. But the problem is that I won MVP the year before. And what European teams do is they try to sign you while you're there.
They lock you up.
Yeah. They know when you're good, if you go home, you're probably not going to come back unless it's for double or triple the money. So if you're good, like they started pressuring my agent in November. Like, can Travis come back? What is here's a contract. He'll come to me. Nah, that's not enough. And then January, and then March, and then April, and then he'd be like, okay. So you'll sign a deal thinking like, I want this security. Yeah. And every year I just kind of did that instead of like, I should have maybe tried to come back. I just never did.
Well, that's got to put you in a real tough spot. It's like a double-edged sword, right? I mean, like here you are, like I got guaranteed money. I'm playing well. I'm getting to play every day. Or I can take my chances, go back home, have to vie for another spot, maybe as a free agent, maybe not get signed. And now I'm stuck in limbo. Hopefully I'll get signed somewhere overseas again, have to turn around and do it all over. So, I mean, I can understand taking the guaranteed stuff, especially the further you got into your career. I mean, I guess as you're getting older and you're like, hey, listen, they're not going to knock on my door, that I'm just going to live out my dream and do it over here overseas, which for you worked out pretty well. I mean, you got the accolades.
Well, no, I think, after a certain amount of time, you just be like, you just be like, forget it. I'm going to just keep playing overseas.
Yeah. Well, you get older, you mature a little bit. I think the realization sets in,
And be honest, like, by the time I was, fifth year overseas, I was, triple digits, so, it was like.
Hey, if I was your age, living overseas in Europe, triple digits, I'd be having the time of my life.
Yeah, so as I said, I wasn't, like it took me, years to get there, but by the time my, it was about fourth, fifth year, I was making, well over 100,000 a year. So I was like, well, I know Europe, I know, where I'm at, and I'm saying, like, as much as I wanted to chance it with the NBA, I just never did. I just kind of did the European thing.
I can't blame you, man. Because I'm about the same age as you, so when you were doing that, I was probably still getting my master's degree, still making like $30,000 a year, working 60 hours a week. So I can't blame you.
Trust me, I hear you.
I'm gonna flip the script a little bit on you. Oh, I'm gonna do a quick little commercial thing here. And then we'll come back and we're going to talk about your injuries because they were not minor. You had more than one. Mm-hmm. And I want to get your viewpoint on how that kind of played out overseas because it's much different than what it went down over here. for sure. And I don't think people understand sometimes when I talk about this stuff how different it is when you head outside the U.S. But you can speak the truth to that. So let me take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Okay?
No problem.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code InjuredList to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
All right, quick little break there. Now I got my boy Travis Reed here, Mr. International Basketball Superstar. He Colombia, Poland, France, Belgium, Holland, Estonia, Germany, Australia. You played pretty much everywhere. And you were successful. Multiple MVPs, some championships, all-star appearances. Made a great career out of international on the international scene, I should say. But it was not without some problems along the way, namely injuries, which is what we're talking about, what we always talk about here on this show, the Injured List podcast. So, Travis, explain to my viewers and listeners what happened to you and where were you at the time and when?
Okay. Well, I was in my, I think my fourth year. Yeah, I think I was in my fourth or fifth year in overseas. I was in my third year on one team in Holland. I was in Holland because I played 1 year, my first year. Obviously, I told you how many stops.
Yeah.
I played on one team. I won MVP of the league, the statistical MVP, which is the best stats in the league my first year. The next year, like the season ended for me in May. I went back in July. I was practicing August 1st on that team that we won the championship. So August 1st, essentially, all the way to May 30th.
So not much downtime.
Yeah, May 30th of the whole.
Did you take any time off, or did you keep playing through that?
Yeah, we're pretty much that's what I was gonna get to. Like,
oh, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, we won the championship. So obviously, imagine that whole season. May 30th. I don't get back home till like June 1st. Then 2 weeks. In 2 weeks after that, I started getting. I didn't even really take a break because my boy was like, you're gonna play in the summer league. The Long Beach State Summer League. Now that was that's when it was just before Vegas. So
right,
NBA teams still played at Long Beach. Okay. And I was in the free agent division, like I said, with my friend Baron Davis. It was his team. So literally 2 weeks after I came back home, I started like working out. I just never stopped working out. I just worked out and played in the summer league. We played the whole summer league, that whole summer. We won the championship of that summer league. So that's another, whatever it was, 15 games, like 2 months in. And then I already had signed the deal to go back to Holland. And I want to say maybe 3 weeks after that, I went back to Holland for the next year. Played the whole season that year. All of my teammates got hurt except for me. I was the only one that played every game, practiced every game, everything, went through everything. Played that season. We lost in first round in May. Went back home. I signed another deal to come back. Like I said, really didn't have that much downtime from the 2 previous years. Went back for my third year. In the beginning of like the preseason, my leg was killing me. My shin, it was just like, man, I was rubbing stuff on it, trying to play through it. And it was just like, man, I don't, this is like not just pain. It's not soreness, because at first it was like, oh, it's just sore because you're just coming back. And then, I was like, I don't think so, man. You know what I'm saying? This feels a little bit more painful. So I went to get an x-ray from, with our team doctor at the hospital. And they said, he said he called it, this is a shit injury. Because he said, because he said, yeah, it's basically what skiers get, or long distance runners. I had a cracked shin bone, stress fracture in my shin.
Yeah.
So my shin was cracked, and they said, like, what we're gonna do was we're gonna put we're gonna put a rod in your leg and 2 screws in one in the bottom of where your ankle is, and and one at the top, one at the top where around my knee. But we're gonna have to open up your leg now. Obviously, I don't know. Like I'm obviously I'm hurting. I'm injured. The doctor says I need surgery. I'm just like, damn, I ain't never had surgery in my life. Before then.
Yeah. Did you guys? Was there like who was there with you for all this? Like, did you have your team physicians or team trainers or anything? Like,
yeah, I think we had a team doctor at the time.
Yeah.
And that's what he said. Because we was at the actual hospital, like the international hospital that of the city, and that's pretty much what they said, that I had to do the surgery. I remember I had my mom on speaker, and she was trying to ask questions or whatever, about it, but like, she tried to look it up, and when she's in the States.
Yeah, I can't imagine that was easy.
Yeah, she actually got an emergency passport, and after my surgery, she was there for my first like 3 weeks of recovery, because I was in a wheelchair for a week, and then on crutches for like 2 or 3 weeks. So
this is your right leg or your left leg?
This is my right leg.
So they put a titanium rod down?
The titanium rod in that leg, screw in it, both top and bottom. And like obviously I just kind of took it easy for a while.
Yeah.
I was just there I was just there with my leg up, really just on on my cane. I mean on my crutches, And then the doctor, I felt like the team, what happened was the other American had to have surgery too.
Oh geez.
Yeah, and so we had both our top Americans, both top players are out. So the team was losing. So they're in last place. And I know they were panicking, like, one of y'all got to come back. You know what I'm saying? So basically they picked me because I was, the better player. And so like the doctor was like, okay, now we can rev it up. I'm like,
how far out were you? You remember how long?
I don't remember. I just remember like like I said, I didn't leave my house. Me and my mom, I didn't leave my house for about three weeks because I was like, I'm not going up and down these stairs on crutches.
It pains me to hear this story.
Yeah,
it pains me.
Yeah, because like I was like, man, I didn't leave my apartment for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Something like that. My mom was there. She was like, okay, I'll stay with you. And so I had to have the team look, take my mom out in the city. Tell her, show her around. I didn't want her to come all the way to Holland, just stay in the house with me. But yeah, so they took her out, but like I just stayed around, and then like the doctor was like, okay, you can stand up now. I'm like, I can't. Okay. I didn't realize, I mean, I stood, it was still a little pain, but it was like, okay, now we can start revving you up, like doing little stuff here, ride the bike here, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, I didn't know that I was supposed to rev it up. I felt like I came back a little bit too early.
You think it sounds like to me like you went from 0 to 100.
Yeah, well,
nothing in between.
Not necessarily going like full blast, but I was, like we started doing stuff, moving around, making moves on my leg.
Were you doing like what you would call physical therapy? Or
was
it just kind of like, take the ball and go run around the court a little bit? Like,
no, it wasn't that. It wasn't. Okay. I wasn't touching the basketball, but like we had a physical trainer.
Okay, good.
Team. So we were doing like stuff, but I don't know. I always feel like maybe I came back a little bit too early.
Yeah, well, it depends. I mean, if you sometimes with the titanium rod, the return time is actually pretty quick. That's why we opt for that surgery, and we do that here in the U.S. for shin splints or not. Stress fractures of the tibia. I mean, we put titanium nails down there all the time.
Yeah.
The advantage of the nail is it actually lets you start walking pretty quick because it bears the weight. It's what we call a load sharing device, not a load bearing device. So it's not going to break by you standing on it, and it's going to actually help things heal. So we do use that here. I'm just concerned about your rehab from the sounds of it.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, it was. I felt they revved me up really fast.
Yeah.
And I want to say, couple months down the line, I played like, I came back and played like half the game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And after playing half the game, like a couple times, we they said, okay, now you can go full blast. I remember they made like a big deal out of it. Like I had to do a big old interview and this and that because the other American, he was still injured.
Oh,
He
geez.
wasn't even ready.
Oh, man.
So they brought me back. I played. We got all the way back to like third place in the league. We finished in third place that year. If I'd have played the whole season, we probably would have came in first. But
Yeah.
since like I said, we was in last place, not halfway during the season, but like let's just say last place after about a quarter and a half of the season. So
Okay.
yeah, like I said,
was your agent ever there by your side, being like, "Hey, maybe we should get a second opinion? Maybe
no.
Do you want to fly back home and hey, maybe have some?"
No. They knew if I went back home, I was going to get the surgery in the States. I wouldn't have got the surgery there.
Would that have been that bad though? I mean,
I think
maybe from their point of view, because maybe they felt like,
yeah, they was like, oh, if he would have rehab home, we might not have,
yeah.
We put all this, thing with him, and so I was like, well, that sucks.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I played that season, right? I actually played the next season like really well. I moved from that country. We lost in championship, game 7. Came home, went to Estonia.
So now you're switch teams.
Switch countries because
okay.
Basically that was the last. We was on the 3-year run with that team. The coach was
Gotcha.
Crazy. We practiced ridiculous. It was and so.
Well, no wonder you got a stress fracture in your tibia.
We ran. And remember, like our practice court, we had a gym, obviously, but it would be shared with doing other stuff. So we had a practice court that was rubber, like concrete rubber.
Oh, geez.
Like I don't know how they call it in Europe. Like it was like rubber, but concrete rubber kind of court.
Yeah.
And so that was our regular practice court.
Like what you would find out in like a street?
It wasn't necessarily like concrete.
Yeah.
It was hard, but it was supposed to be rubbery. It's hard to explain. But it wasn't like a basketball, it was used for soccer.
It was a synthetic type material, but not a hardwood.
Yeah, it wasn't hardwood.
Okay,
it wasn't hardwood. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't hardwood.
That probably didn't help.
Yeah, I don't think it helped. So like I said, I finished that year. I played the next year because I was so motivated about leaving that country. I just got kind of me and the coach kind of butted heads towards the end. So anyway, I played the next year in Estonia, have a great year, win MVP, the Baltic League, win MVP of the Estonian League, all this stuff. But this league is this country, we play way more games. So we played about, I want to say about 75, 80 games.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because we was in 3 different leagues all at once, or 4 different leagues. Yeah.
That's like a full NBA season then, yeah.
Exactly. We was playing like 3 times a week.
Yeah.
We was playing in the Baltic League. We was playing in the Estonian League. We was playing in like a European league as well. Our coach was practicing us hard. And so that season was great. I had a wonderful season. Then the next, I go back home, kind of take a little bit of a break, get ready for the next season. And then my other leg starts bothering me. Yeah.
Were you like, oh no, this is the same thing? Did you know right away?
Like I was like, it felt the same, but I wasn't sure. And so like what they did, I had a minor surgery, but they took out the titanium rod in the screws. They took that out. And
from the other leg?
Yeah, from the right leg, from my original.
But that wasn't bothering you.
No, like what happened was they thought that one was bothering me. It wasn't that leg, it was the left one. So they said, okay, we'll take this one out. We'll take that rod out. We'll put a plate over it, steel plate over it. And then I played after I came back, from that little minor surgery, quote unquote. And minor? Yeah. And
no, man, taking a
yeah, and towards the end of the season, my other leg started bothering me. And by this time, what people don't know is like athletes get addicted to pain pills. So I was taking the Bleav like Skittles.
Yeah,
I was
well,
popping in the lead, popping in the lead, popping in the lead.
Travis, I'm dying over here. This is. I wish I was there for you, man.
Exactly. That's why, like that's why you're what you're doing is needed. You know what I'm saying? What you're doing is needed.
Yeah, well, we'll have that talk.
Yeah, we'll have
on
it
the
at
side.
the end. Yeah. But so I'm, like I said, I'm popping pills like pain pills like Skittles. At this point, just to practice. Like I'm popping maybe 5, 6 to leave to practice, maybe 7 to 8 to play. Just to just to get through on a daily. So I'm just like, my leg is killing me, man.
So you had the second surgery on the right. They took out the
Yep.
rod, you put a plate on there, minor procedure, and then your left leg, the opposite side, which until this point had no problems. Now you're starting to get the same kind of symptoms.
Same
like
feeling. Yep. And then I went to a Finland doctor. I had to take a boat, whatever, to Finland.
Yeah.
And then basically said, like, you have stress fracture in your left knee now, your left leg. So that's what's the pain. And what this happens is, like, the team I was on at the time, they was like, look, just play through it. You can play through it and have the surgery after the season, because we were in the finals at that time.
Oh.
We were in the playoffs. Like I said, I played in the first round on the hurt legs, but I was still able to dunk and things like that, even though my leg was hurting. It's probably because I didn't feel anything because I'm peeled up.
That's probably exactly what it was.
You know what I'm saying? And it was like, look, just play through the season. The owners was telling me, just play through. We'll pay for the surgery after the season. Just play through it, man. Like, do this for us. We love you, blah, blah, blah. We gave you this, we gave you that. Yeah. And I had a dinner with all my teammates, and I paid for the dinner, all my teammates. I was like, look, what do y'all think I should do? They want me to play through it. And they was like, man, excuse my language, F that. I didn't want to say that word, but F that, man. Like, you have a long career coming, and don't do that, man. And so I decided not to play, and they decided not to pay for my surgery, and I had to pay for the surgery myself.
I have a feeling they probably wouldn't have paid either way from the sound of it.
Yeah, so they didn't pay for my surgery. I didn't sign back for the next year. I had to pay for the surgery myself, and I had the steel rod put in my leg, for that. And I rehabbed
on the left side,
on the left leg, and then I rehabbed when I got home in the States.
So you had the surgery over there, though.
I had surgery over there. I waited like a couple weeks before I got on a plane home.
Yeah.
And so, like, and so they end up losing in the finals. They're pissed. They give me a flight home, whatever. I go home. I'm rehabbing in the States. And then I'm playing pickup, getting ready to sign my next contract for the next year. And I get kicked in the shin, like so bad that it cracks my whole leg, almost snaps it in half. It cracked all the way down. Like, let's just say it cracked, like the bone is here. It cracked all the way to like almost the end of the bone.
In the leg that you now have the rod in. That's crazy. Now you playing pickup, you got kicked, and you've basically almost completely fractured your tibia with the rod in there.
Yeah, with the rod in.
That makes me wonder if you were ever even healed in the first place.
I don't think, like I probably wasn't healed enough to. I was trying to get another deal and just showing the team that like they wanted to see me play pickup. So I had
I get it.
Taping me play pickup, and while I'm playing pickup, somebody falls down, kicks me in my shin, and like I said, my career.
I tell you what, if you didn't have that rod in your leg would have snapped in half.
Yeah, exactly.
That rod saved your leg from snapping in half. Now, what it tells me from my point of view, knowing that doing what I do, is you were probably never healed. That bone, even with the rod in, still has to heal.
Yeah.
I mean, even though the rod's there, the bone still has to heal. All the rod does is stabilize everything and allow that bone to be compressed, but the bone physiologically still has to bend together. And a lot of times, with these stress fractures, people will not have much pain, sometimes none at all. But until that bone heals, that's the risk, You go out there too soon, or maybe it's not healed and you don't know it, and one little thing like that can be the end of it.
Yeah, well, like I said, after that, just my career, like that was about year 7. my career was never the same. I never got the money that I was making then, and like I continued to play. It just like without that year, my son probably doesn't be born.
Yeah.
But it was because that year basically I had my son, it took me a whole I went back to Holland. They actually signed me back, my old team, and I took an X-ray and they showed my bone wasn't healed because that happened in summer. So let's just say July.
Yeah.
July, August, in December it wasn't healed yet, so I had to miss that whole entire season to get my bone to heal again.
Did you end up having to have another surgery then too?
Nah, I never had to have another surgery again. But just, like I said, it wasn't, it was never the same, like everything never was the same.
Yeah.
And like I said, I played, I went back to Estonia, played a year, went to Germany, played a year, and I went to Australia twice. But like I said, the money was never the same after that.
Right. Yeah.
After the injury. So
yeah, I'm sure word got around in Europe, especially a little bit of damaged goods here.
Yeah, and so how it is, they know in Europe they play on your desperation because they know you need a job.
Right. Yeah.
So you just you don't want to sit out for a year, another year, or whatever. You need to play, and so they play on that. So that's how I end up going back. After the year off of playing. Yeah. After the injury.
Yeah, crazy stuff. I mean, you don't have to be a pro to hear the story and know that things probably would have unfolded a little differently here. The injuries definitely would have been handled a lot differently.
Yeah.
Sounds like you had the right surgery for the right problem, which is good. And I'm relieved to hear that. I don't know about that second procedure, taking the nail out and putting the plate on. I'm not sure what that was all about, but you got through it, thank goodness. So, and still played and played well. After that, which is good. I mean, that's great for you. Definitely, you dodged some bullets along the way. I'll tell you that. Because hearing your story could have been a lot worse, my man.
Oh no, I definitely, I feel blessed enough to where I still played 3 more years of
that's I mean, hearing the story about your right leg, that could have been the end for some people right there. So, I'm happy to hear that you were able to get through that okay and still be successful. So good for you.
Agreed.
But, let that be a lesson to our listeners, man, because you think you don't have it good over here when it comes to healthcare, you're severely mistaken. Things are a lot different when you get outside the US of A.
Oh, I agree with you.
Don't get me wrong. There's some great places in Europe where you can get top-notch, state-of-the-art, advanced procedures done, very similar, if not even better in some cases to how we do it here. But the places that you can have that stuff done is much further and farther between out when you get over to Europe. So you're kind of a walking testament to that.
Oh, I agree. I mean, look, Kobe Bryant couldn't get that surgery for his knee in the States. He only could get it in Germany. So, at the time. So
he went and had some special injections and stuff. So
they wasn't, it was illegal here.
And that back when he got it done, it was still very experimental. A lot of people weren't providing that type of service here. It's still a little bit of a gray area in the medicine world here, but you can get it anywhere now.
Okay. So yeah. I remember then when he got it, it was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
So but yeah, like I said, I just with that was like, my injuries that I was kind of like, that changed my career, my trajectory, whatever. Like I said, I still play, but it just never was. I mean, to be honest with you, the last 3 years was a lot of still, not as many pills, but still pilled up for games and things like that. So
yeah. Well, nobody wants to be like that.
Exactly.
Definitely not good for your long-term health. So tell me now, what have you been up to since your career ended? And is basketball still a big part of your life?
Well, yes, I think so. I mean, I have a podcast, An Athlete's Journey, where
you had 2 at one time, right? And you got just the one now, or?
No, I still got multiple. I have Yeah, I still got 3 actually. I've been
Okay.
kind of focusing on 2 of them.
Yeah, tell us a little bit more about it. And I'll have all the links of all these shows and everything in the show notes and description for everybody if they want to check it out. Tell us a little bit more about them.
Well, pretty much. Let's start off with the main one. The first one is easy. Bleav in UCLA. It's on iHeartradio, Spotify, all those other, podcasts. That's pretty much like, me talking about me being a former Bruin, talking about UCLA football, basketball, just UCLA sports in general. I've been doing that for a little bit now. I'm thinking about bringing a co-host, TJ Cummings. He went to UCLA as well. So that could be a possibility down the future. But right now, I'm focusing on obviously the football season, which is starting Saturday for UCLA and most of college football.
Yep, college football kicks it off. Yeah.
Yep. But my main show is an athlete's journey. Pretty much that's like where I interview former, current, and future athletes about their journey. Sports, it could be any sport, it could be basketball, baseball, football, whatever. And talk about their journey from the beginning of how their love for whatever sport they love started to the going through high school, college, and then if they blessed enough to make it professional. And then for me, the main thing is what happened after they finished their career. Now, it could have finished in college, you could have finished in high school, it could have finished professionally. And for me, it's like a lot of athletes, they wonder why some of them have substance abuse problems or drinking problems or whatever the case is. It's because that they don't really have an outlet after basketball. I mean, look, after I got injured that big time and I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, I was like 27 or 28 at the time, maybe about 28, 29, whatever it was. And I was, like I said, I played 7 years overseas and I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So I continued to play 3 more years just to kind of eke out,
Yeah, sure.
to get to that in that time. And after I retired, I just had no idea what I wanted to do. And this show is about, it's okay to not know after and pretty much learn from my mistakes, other people's mistakes, and their successes as well, of how to make that transition after the basketball, the football, whatever, lights turn out.
Yeah. It's and I can vouch, guys. It's a great show. The Athlete Journey. I listened to a few episodes. You just did one recently where you had a former teammate, fellow collegiate player who played pro and now is like a famous HBO actor.
Yes, my friends.
Yeah, about that, but
well, it's my friend's. This guy named Solomon Hughes. He's actually Dr. Solomon Hughes. He'd be mad at me if I didn't say the doctor part. We grew up playing basketball together. He's from Southern California. He went to we almost went to high school together. He went to Bishop Amat, ended up going to Cal and then played for the Harlem Globetrotters and played overseas for a couple of years. And then he retired, early. And then he went to he got his doctorate. And one day he got a call from a friend of his who played in the NBA saying, "You want to play Kareem Abdul-Jabbar?" And in this HBO show called Winning Time. And he was like, yeah, and if you look at him, he kind of looks like Kareem, if you look at the show.
He got the build, yeah.
You got the build of Kareem. Now, he doesn't exactly look like Kareem, but he kind of,
well, Hollywood, I mean, they could pull it off.
Yeah, what I'm saying? He kind of, looks like, so it's he's a great, great friend of mine. We grew up together, like I said. Right. And it's just like, he's, after he didn't know what he wanted to do after he retired. And so he was like, look, I got to, he loved school. So he went back to school, for me, I had a son to feed at the time. So I was like, I got to find a job to provide for him, period, and so that's what I did. I provided for him and got, jobs until I figured out, what I wanted to do, what I'm doing now,
Yep. So can we find you still playing some pickup games in the men's league or on the sideline, maybe coaching your son? Where can we find you on the basketball court these days? Anywhere?
You can find me. I play in the little adult leagues here and there, little 40 and up leagues, nothing too serious. I go about 65%, of what I, my capacity. I'm definitely not trying to get hurt. Definitely not trying to do any of that. So I just go out there for fun now.
Yeah.
And
I know the feeling. I gave it up a few years ago myself. I'm just messing. Well, anyway, Travis, thanks, man, for coming on. Awesome conversation. Great stories of your successes and your injuries, unfortunately, overseas. But a very unique perspective compared to what we hear at a lot of these talk shows. Most of the guys we see on the shows are all these NBA guys or college guys who play here in the States. It's such a different world over there in Europe, especially as a pro athlete, especially in the world of basketball where things are just so much different. Thanks for sharing your stories and enlightening us. And, like I said, everybody, I'll have all of Travis's information in the show notes. Please check out his podcast that he's got going on, An Athlete's Journey, and Bleav UCLA. You can find them wherever you listen to your podcast and on iHeartradio. And I'll have all the links down below. So, Travis, any parting words or words of advice for any of these young guys looking to make it to the professional ranks in basketball these days?
I would just say, as a saying that I always put, keep growing, keep grinding.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, like they love what basketball does for them, right? But it's not about, what basketball does for you. It's what you can do like for basketball. And what I mean by that is, the work. You got to love the work just as much as you love the game. For me, when I was playing basketball overseas, I love working out, as much as I love the games. The games was just the cherry on the top. Like you got to love the work. And I tell my son that all the time, like practice is when you get better, And so like when you're on that grind, and trust me, like you're talking to a person who got cut multiple times. And so like there is a light at the end of that tunnel to all you players that may be in that route of like, man, I got cut here. It's okay. Trust me, talking to a guy who got cut a lot.
Dude, like you said, I think 90% of people probably would have gave up after that first year of yours.
Exactly. So like, I think I was going to give up. I was going to be part of that 90%.
Yeah.
But I just kept growing. I just kept, I kept grinding, kept on it. And that's what I, tell anybody, just stay on it. If you really, really, really want to play basketball, football, baseball, whatever, stay on it as much as you can. Because once it's gone, it's gone. Once you leave it and go somewhere else, that's it.
Yep. Ain't that the truth? Well, thanks again, Travis. Really appreciate you having you on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, Travis Reed.
Thank you.